Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our third episode of Clear Signal, where we talk about Zadar technology and deployment. Today on our show, we have Behrooz, our CEO, joining us. And Behrooz, you've been with us for 2 years already, and the past 2 years have been quite a whirlwind of activity and growth here at Zadar. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're excited about?
There's just so many things that I'm excited about, but when I joined Zadar, I really was attracted to the technology, the innovation, and the performance. And what the company was doing at the time was really solving very tough problems in terms of vision, 3D vision, 4D vision, and trying to close the gap with LiDAR, of course, and that's the path that we've been on since day one. But the thing that also really attracted me to the company was the execution, the brand names, the customers that we were dealing with. So when I came into the company, we're dealing with all the segments from agriculture to security to automotive to AR, VR. And what we found was that dealing with the automotive segment was really tough because even though all the demos that we did with the customers, they were really super excited about the performance, but at the end of the day, we didn't have the certification, the manufacturing, and all the ecosystem that needed to go in to really serve that market. So we decided to back out of that market, even though everybody else was going chasing after it, and it was really high volume. And we decided to focus on what I call beachhead markets, the markets that absolutely need performance. They need to see through fog, they need to see through dust, and they need to see through all kinds of inclement weather and all kinds of challenging environments. And they care about certifications and all that, but at the same time, they can be more lax in those markets because they really need fundamental technology differentiation. And that's what we focused on. So we went after AgTech, we went after some security markets, and we got a lot of traction. Along the way, we also got traction with AMR market, with delivery markets, which is one of the fastest growing segments of the market. The robotics, the physical AI is finally happening. And that is really exciting. That's where we see a lot of growth this year. And machine safety, big machine safety and logistics, anti-collision solutions, these are all solutions that we can deliver and only we can deliver because of they're always operating in fog, they're always operating in some kind of a challenging environment. And that's really what gets me very excited about the future of Zadar.
So you talked a little bit about these beachhead markets. Can you maybe go into a little more detail on, what specific markets that we're serving and what Zadar is specifically doing that's differentiating in these different spaces?
Great question. The beachhead markets are markets that are in agriculture, either in precision farming or autonomy or just machine safety. Just some examples, just tractor wants to move around in the farm and doesn't want to hit someone. Or a AMR in some kind of a warehouse robot that goes from building to building and just runs into fog or logistics, things like that are really cannot operate, they cannot stop operating even for 5 minutes when there's a fog. So there's even a tiny chance that the operation is going to be halted. And for that reason, none of the optical sensors work, but they need high resolution. They need good range. And that's where we play, and that's where we started to get traction. The other markets is AMR. Delivery market. Again, those markets, when you start a delivery, whether it's from a restaurant or whether from a warehouse to the customer, you can't run into a fog and say, well, I'm going to just hang out here for a while for the fog to go away. And even if there's a tiny chance that you're going to run into that, you're going to need an 4D imaging radar, but you also need high resolution. And that's where we played, and that's where we're getting traction. And that's been our beachhead. And I want to talk about automotive, by the way. That's a really interesting market. We will get there. And as we get scale, we are going to get that market. But right now, these are the beachhead markets. The same thing with safety. Whether it's border security, whether it's enterprise security, Those are the markets that, again, when you're operating with very high-end cameras, security cameras, tracking people, tracking events, again, you can't just take a chance in some kind of an inclement weather that you're going to stop operating or the camera is going to be left off when you really need it. And that's where imaging radar comes in, and that's where we come in.
So you talked about a bunch of diverse markets, from border security to robotics and even automotive. What about Zadar's philosophy allows us to serve all these different diverse markets?
That's a great question, and that's something that investors really care about. How do you serve these markets? How do you scale? So scalability, one way to scale is you just hire a lot of engineers. And again, as a startup, you have to watch the cash. You have to be careful with that. Fundamentally, the technology, again, comes to rescue at Zadar. The fundamental technology of software-defined imaging radar. It's a buzzword maybe, but it's real. We design a very efficient hardware, but then we design an algorithm that's very scalable. If you look at our tracking algorithm, if you look at any of our software that we designed for range resolution, being able to modify it in the field within a matter of milliseconds, not just by ourselves, but also having the customer capable of doing that. That means the same zPRIME that we go into the security market, that same zPRIME hardware can go into an AMR market, that same zPRIME goes into an AgTech market. And that is pretty amazing, because if you look at the camera market that's been around for 30 years, digital cameras, it started out going into digital SLR, and now you have 5 of them in a phone and you have 20 of them in a car. They're just so pervasive. It took a long time for them to really become a horizontal play across everything. And for us to be able to do that day one, that comes to the heart of the software-defined imaging radar that we've designed from day one. And again, my kudos to the engineering team, like yourself, who've really designed that fundamental, taken that fundamental philosophy and designed it into the product.
Thank you. Yeah, and I just wanted to add that, on top of our software flexibility, hardware is not necessarily one size fits all. And so part of the philosophy that we also have on the hardware side is to design products that serve a wide range of form factors, ranges, and ultimately performance as well.
That is very true. That is very true. A lot of the competitors, though, they design one radar for very specific need, another radar for another very specific need. And that's why most of the competition, they've decided to focus on automotive, and became a very crowded market because their sensors, they couldn't take it to multiple markets. They couldn't design it around something that would be scalable. And for us, ironically, a scalable software, scalable hardware means that you have to have a very efficient hardware, but you can do it with few hardware. If you look at what we have, zPRIME, zSIGNAL, which is now going into the second generation, zPROX, zPULSE, all these sensors, really what defines them is the form factor, but from a use case, they can be actually, each one of them can go into multiple markets. And that is really very unique in the market today.
Yeah, certainly. So another thing that we have at Zadar is we've got our fundamental technology and sensor sales for customers that are interested in just the radar technology itself. And we also have what we call like full solutions for customers. Can you talk a little bit more about how we balance those two?
And that's one of the most challenging parts of building any company. Do you go horizontal and become as Sensors or Us, where you put it on this website and you get orders and you just ship it without having any knowledge of the market? Or do you go more vertical, where you actually build a solution and you go very vertical? And we are doing mostly vertical now. But the way we do it, for example, if you take machine safety or anti-collision platform like FreePath or FleetGuard, that same solution that's been designed around logistics, heavy machinery, heavy equipment in logistics, we can take that same thing and put it on a forklift, on a tractor, and in the ag-tech and construction. So it is vertical, but it's somewhat also horizontal. So it is scalable. Now you have that same solution could potentially eventually go into other markets such as automotive, but it won't be as fine-tuned as on optimized. So we are doing other things, as you know, well, we are doing more about those markets. So it's somewhat of a hybrid, but again, a lot of the solutions that we design around one market can actually serve multiple markets, multiple verticals. And that is one of the things that part of the daily challenge and daily fun of the building a company.
Right, so we've taken some of that philosophy of flexible and scalable software on the sensor itself and also applied that to our full solutions.
Exactly.
And there's another point I wanted to add here where, because we're working on both the horizontal side, which is the sensor technology itself, and the vertical side where we're taking those sensors and actually deploying them in full solutions, we have a unique insight into how our technology is actually useful and how it's actually used in the real world. Can you tell me a bit more about how our experience in developing solutions informs us to design and produce better sensors?
Right. That's actually an excellent point. I'm just amazed every day learning about applications where we would not have thought about. Just today we got some inquiries about some markets around precision material handling or material monitoring that is very similar in a lot of ways to something that we've done in another market in precision farming. And that is an application in a new market, never thought about it, but when we look at it and say, hey, we've done this here, and that solution can work. And again, it all comes back to the same thing. They cannot use camera. They've tried LiDAR, optical sensors, and kudos to all the LiDAR companies, and I'm not here to bash LiDAR because there are great companies out there, and those solutions absolutely needed, and obviously the market's growing there. But there are things that people cannot do with optical sensors, and these applications come along, and it's actually very exciting to learn about these, but then we, like you said, when we develop a solution, that teaches us how to apply that solution to something else. And we're seeing that all the time. That's why when we look at our markets, it really comes around mobility, which is AMRs and logistics and moving things. Fixed infrastructure, smart infrastructure, which is security monitoring, like traffic monitoring. And then it comes into IoT and precision material monitoring and precision farming, and then automotive.
Right. So, I mean, I've seen in many of our deployments where we'll initially solve a tough problem that seemed impossible, and our learnings, the algorithms we've developed, the sensor improvements we've made, while solving that problem, we find many similar classes of problems in very similar or adjacent markets.
Right.
And we're just developing that engineering flywheel where new problems just get easier and easier to solve.
I love the word impossible, because when somebody says it's impossible, I just smile. To me, that means a lot of value if you can solve it. And I've always told engineers in my career that laws of economics supersede laws of physics. And people laugh, and they laugh at me and say, this guy's crazy, what is he talking about? But the reality is we do some amazingly impossible things that are just magic. And I love that. That's what drives our technology forward. That's what really enables us to deliver things to people that they look at and say, how'd you do that? I can't believe it. And there are times that we meet customers, very smart customers, and we spend hours just explaining to them that what we're showing, the video that we're showing or the demo that we're showing, this is not made up. This is real point cloud, this is actually, we're doing it. And then they ask us a lot of questions, they go into a lot of deep diligence until they get convinced that, boy, you guys solved something that I never thought it could be solved. So that is one of the things that really makes me excited about working with yourself, with the team here at Zadar.
Yeah, hearing and seeing that wow moment from our customers is really a huge part of the job here. So, we've talked about, getting into these beachhead markets, kind of deploying and expanding our technology to a bunch of different places. But we have both software and hardware that we need to scale. So can you tell us a little bit more about what Zadar has been doing recently to scale more on those fronts?
That's a tough question to answer because that's something that we've grappled with in the last couple of years also. We have a great fundamental technology, great markets, great beachhead. How do we scale? And it goes across the span of, do we hire more? Do we do this? Do we do that? Do we expand? And within the last 9 months, we actually came across some really great opportunities. One of the great opportunities was an acquisition of a company called FusionRide, as you know, that we announced that we closed the acquisition about a month ago. And this is a company that has great engineering talent, a number of hardware and software engineers, a lot of embedded software as well as algorithm engineers, and also great deal of operational skills, supply chain operations, and even manufacturing, where we can build hundreds of thousands of sensors. Now, when we came across that opportunity, we took it because we felt that that really can catapult us in terms of the scaling that we're talking about. And we're seeing that already in the supply chain, in the cost of material, and in what we're doing on the operational side. It is also helping us with certifications. Now we can talk to customers in automotive and in the industrial segment and say, yes, we can do certification. We have manufacturing. We know these processes. We've always known about them, but now we can actually do something about it. And then the third piece is the engineering, the raw engineering talent that this company has. They have strong traction with tier ones in automotive, so there's a lot of automotive knowledge. So now you combine that with the technology that Zadar has developed in the past. Together, we can now get the hardware and software together, new hardware. We are actually, one of the first things, as you know, what we did was with the AMR market, we looked at a couple of their products and said, that's actually a really great product. It's ready to go into manufacturing. The cost is very attractive. Let's go with their hardware. Let's port our software and really combine the two in the merger and take that to the customer. And we've done that. And that is really amazing that we did it in a matter of weeks, where a lot of the other companies in merger, when you're talking about M&A, the thing that everybody overlooks is the the integration. And we've done the M&A, but now we're really focused on the integration. We've been able to do that very rapidly. There's still a lot of challenges. Not everything is rosy. We still got to work through a lot of that. But really now we have more products in our product line. We have now automotive customers because they're working with some of the top tier one automotive customers in software development, and now we have an ecosystem and supply chain that's much more powerful, and not only build it inside our manufacturing in China, but we can replicate that with manufacturers, outsource manufacturing in Asia and other locations as needed, and that is really going to help us take our scaling to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, it really sounds like this is one of those times where perhaps 1 + 1 is greater than 2. And it's been really exciting and busy, working on the integration between Zadar and FusionRide for a new, combined Zadar Labs. And the velocity, for our execution is just, higher than ever. And with that, I guess, so where do you see this, this merged company going forward in the next, let's say, 2 years?
Well, great places. To a short answer, if we're going to some great places, it really comes down to execution. We have 4 distinct areas or verticals that solution is very scalable within those markets, those verticals. Mobility, which includes AMR and logistics. Smart infrastructure, which is really security. We have been developing a solution for border security, autonomous border security, and we're doing more in terms of security with enterprise and venue security, traffic monitoring. Again, same zPRIME, as you know, we're taking it there, and it's a matter of different tracking and software algorithms. This third market is now we've added automotive. That's the third market that with FusionRide coming in, now we can expand in that market with our products, with our algorithm, and with FusionRide solution. And the fourth one is this IoT segment, which includes everything from drone delivery to automated autonomous lawnmowers to material handling and consumer devices, XR, VR. So there's really a lot of segments that we can go. It really comes down to execution. And execution means that we got to do it cost effectively, culturally, and my job is, of course, to always bring in the funding, and the investors current investors are super excited about what we're doing. They're very supportive, and we're looking to now go to the next phase. Soon we'll be working with new segments of the market and new customers, and really hundreds of customers that are coming in. And question is, how do we fill that pipeline? So if you look at 2 years, 4 years, 5 years in the future, we really get to that vision of truly horizontal sensor that is many, many segments, but we're doing it methodically with execution.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it really sounds like, this partnership is something great, and we're developing something that's truly here to stay.
It is. And, if you look at my history from where I was before, one of my last jobs was running InvenSense. And by the time I left InvenSense and we went through a really great exit with TDK, we had about 50,000 developers on our sensors. We had a developer community. Annually, we had a developer convention. In addition to all the industry sensor converge or MEMS and sensor conferences, we had our own, where we had a room full of developers, software and hardware developers, and taking our sensors into areas that we never knew existed. And they would show up with applications, they would show up with solutions in everything from putting the IMU in a paddle for racket, golf club, things that we thought that, wow, these guys, and we didn't really, it was a very low-touch business for us. So I could see that eventually we get there with imaging, just like cameras. We're far from it, but that is a long-term vision that this radar is here to, imaging radar is here to stay, and it is very scalable, and it will go very horizontally across many segments.
That's awesome. I just have one last question.
Sure.
So with the Zadar FusionRide merger, we have a lot of new, I guess, global footprint and global exposure. So how has that affected how we approach our deployments, how we approach our customer pipeline, and how we're able to support our customers that might also have a global presence?
That is really the toughest part of the job. Goes back to integration. How do we integrate together, serve a global footprint of customers and products, which means that culturally we need to really rely on each other more between the various different groups, really truly become one Zadar. And we have to be able to take our products into segments and customers that may require resources and skill sets that we didn't develop here, but they are in China, they are coming from FusionRide, and vice versa. And the faster we get through that and let go of the way we've done things in the past. I mean, you've already started doing that with supply chain. Oh, yeah. And hopefully it opened up bandwidth for you to do other things and more fun things, but because now you've passed along a lot of things to those guys, and they have the capability. They brought in a really strong ecosystem partnership with the semiconductor supply chain and component supply chain, PCB supply chain. The more that we can do that and rely on each other's skill set, which means really culturally and getting to know the other organization as closely and as quickly as possible, is the path to get there.
Right, and another thing I wanted to add was, on top of that, for our customer deployments and our customer supports, now that we have a more global presence, we're also able to serve customers by going on site, providing support, providing deployment, engineering as necessary globally.
Absolutely. It's no longer send a sensor and hope that it works in the field. I mean, you've known that you've gone to many fields, to many customer deployments, and that's only continued to expand. And now hopefully we can build a bigger base of an organization around that and customer solutions and do a lot more of that.
That's very exciting. Do you have any last words for us?
I think that the easy part is over. And as I tell my team every year at every company that I've been, this year is the hardest part, next year will be easy. And I'll say that again next year, which means it's really, truly, it's about hard work, but making it fun, really bring in value, understanding where the customer value is. What is it that they really need solved? What is the problem that they need solved? And our knowledge of our customer and their customer and the challenges that they have is ever more important. And solving those problems will always bring value to the company.
Definitely. If the customer is happy, then we're happy.
Exactly.
Thanks again, Behrooz, for joining us and talking a little bit about where we've been the past couple of years and where we're going in the future. And also talking about how we're scaling our products and our global footprints.
It's been my pleasure. I love talking about Zadar. And I'm really appreciative of this platform to talk about Zadar again and all the great things that we have in front of us.
That concludes the third episode of Clear Signal. Thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions or if you're interested in radar technology, please feel free to reach out.